Welcome to The Artisanal Writer, an online platform celebrating books published by Canadian independent publishers. You can visit our website at artisanalwriter.com or explore our YouTube channel for interviews with Canadian authors about story, craft, and inspiration. My name is Erin Steel, and if you enjoy today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, my guest is Melanie Florence, the author of Missing Me Mama, which won the 2016 TD Canadian Children's Literature Award, and Stolen Words, which won the 2018 Ruth and Sylvia Schwartz Children's Book Award, as well as a number of other children's books. Today, she joins me from Toronto to talk about her latest book, a middle grade novel called Simpson Starts a Revolution, published by Orca Books in 2024. Welcome to The Artisanal Writer, Melanie, and congratulations on your latest publication.
Thanks so much.
The title of your book is very enticing. It's called Simpson Starts a Revolution. Briefly, can you tell us, without giving too much away, who is Simpson and why is she starting a revolution?
Okay, full disclosure, I don't think I'm the one that came up with that title. We had a lot of problems titling this. Initially, it was called Dear Doctor, which we'll get into why that makes sense later. But yeah, it had to be changed. And it was really tricky, but I don't think I can take credit for this. So Lo Simpson is our main character, and she is a little bit of me and a little bit of my daughter when we were around the age of 12. It just kind of doesn't want to grow up, is very happy to live in this fantasy world. And she starts a revolution because she really wants to see some change in her school, particularly with the way things are, you know, my dog is, of course, complaining. I apologize. You know, it's really about a lot of big issues in a very small book. And it's about a girl finding her voice, I guess, and speaking up. And she's never been in that position because she's always been the follower. And she sort of suddenly finds herself being a bit of a leader and using her voice for the first time.
Okay, there is so much in this book. We have so much to talk about. I enjoyed reading the book. It was fantastic. And you brought up the doctor. So why don't we go right to that? The doctor is a big motif in this book. So can you explain who is Doctor Who and and why is this motif important to the novel?
I'm a big Doctor Who fan, obviously. I don't think it would have been this big in the novel if I wasn't. I really wanted to try some different things with my writing. You know, I became known for writing very dark, very kind of serious subjects. And I'm not that dark a person. And I really wanted to try something new. So I started thinking, okay, if I'm going to take risks and try something completely different, what is important to me? What am I passionate about? And Doctor Who was really weirdly one of those things. So it's a British show that's been around for years and years and years and years and years, with many different people playing the Doctor. And the Doctor's kind of a hero, but you know, there's a lot that somebody like me and somebody like Lo can really relate to. And, you know, if you could see my studio, as I said, my studio is a big mess, but I apologize for the mess you're about to see, but
all I see is
TARDIS there's a TARDIS in my studio. I have a Doctor Who tattoo on my arm. I mean, like, this was something that I really wanted to explore. And I was so excited to have a kid who just recognizes how cool the Doctor is, and just, you know, yeah, it became a big thing for sure.
Well, I think it makes the novel unique, and your passion for it seeps through the writing. It really drew me in. And I've actually never watched Doctor Who, but after reading the book, I'm like, I have to go watch this. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
Oh my God.
So, thematically, this novel is definitely planted in 2024 with
Yeah.
the cosplay, the clothing, how the characters self-identify, the discussion of consent. What
Mhm.
compelled you to write this novel at this time?
I mean, these are discussions that are really important. And, I think, funny enough, when you talk about, I don't know, there's so many different issues that I kind of threw into this book, but they're issues that are really important and they're issues that are worth discussing. And I think, um, you know, just being able to write a book where I can address things like consent and I can address things like gender identity and um, things like period products that are so natural, but we did not have that when I was a kid. And I thought, okay, what are my top 10 things that I really am passionate about sort of talking about? I narrowed it down, but as you know, not that much because I did really put a lot of big themes in here. But naturally, I feel like, and I think that was what I wanted to do. I wanted this to be a conversation of 12-year-old kids, but have it be natural and have it really reflect today's 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old kids.
Yeah, and the voice is super strong, and I felt like it was a 12-year-old, and I felt
Mm,
like these are what 12-year-olds are talking about, what young adults or tweens are talking about. There's a definite message in this novel, but it never came across as moralizing. It actually reminded me
yeah.
a lot of Judy Blume, who I loved when I was that age. Just what like, Are You There, God? It's Me,
Yeah.
Margaret, Tiger Eye. It kind of had that feel to me. And so I'm wondering, how did you manage through your drafting, through the writing, how did you manage the tone?
Okay, a couple of things. Funny enough, I mean, I was a big Judy Blume fan, and those are books that I gave to my daughter, and they're actually books that I read again before I started writing this because I knew that Judy Blume's characters have such a strong voice and a strong presence, and I really wanted to reread them and have that in my head when I started writing. So I'm glad that that came out. That's very flattering. Um, you know, I I enjoy being a children's writer. I don't think I could be a writer for adults because I don't know. I just find that it's easier for me to write children. What does that say about me that it's easier for me to write kid characters? I listen to kids. I appreciate kids. I have kids. So I think that, I sort of over my career made it a point to really listen to the way kids talk and communicate and not write kids like an adult writing a kid. You know what I mean? Like I tried to put myself in the position of Lo Simpson because that was me. So I wanted to kind of go back and think, okay, who were you at this age? Write from that. Don't write from this, this older person. Sit down and write you. And I think that that's what makes it actually sound more like a kid. And honestly, the best review I ever got in my career was somebody saying that my kids actually sound like kids. And I just thought, that's what I'm going for. So good.
Yeah, they do. And it comes through the language. I thought the language was so specific to that age group. So well done.
Thank you.
The other thing I was really fascinated by was the structure. So the chapters are in third person in the head of Lo, and then it's interspersed with letters that Lo writes to the doctor.
Yeah.
Um, how did you come up with that structure, and what did it allow you to do?
I honestly don't remember why I came up with that exactly. So it's a good question. But I really wanted to be able to express what this character, because she's writing letters to the doctor, not the actor, the literal character. And it's for Lo, it's like writing in a diary, but instead of Dear Diary, it's Dear Doctor. And she writes these letters and she sticks them in a box. And it's her way, like to her, the character's almost real, you know, like she really, this character really resonates with her. And it's somebody that she looks up to, but she feels would understand her as she goes through all these, you know, crazy things that 12 and 13-year-olds go through. So I think having the letters there made it easier to express what was going on in her head, because it is written in the third person. I did start writing it in the first person. It just didn't, it wasn't working. So I went back and, well, especially if you're going to write the letters, right? Because if you're writing it in the first person, you can just talk about what she's thinking. But in the third person, I couldn't do that. So it made it easier to really see into, these are thoughts that really she wouldn't have with herself. The only person that she feels she can talk to at times is the doctor. So, you know, having these weird little letters interspersed, you know, gave me the opportunity to explore her innermost thoughts and feelings kind of as her, as opposed to, okay, this is what I'm thinking right now. You know, you really see it because she's writing it down. It's like reading her diary. It's reading her very innermost thoughts.
Yeah, that intimacy, the
Mm-hmm.
intimacy came across in those notes and in the letters. And then I thought the third person sections really expanded the world. So you saw the other characters almost not objectively, but like a wider lens on those other
Mm-hmm.
characters. And in the time frame of the novel, Lo and Jazz are contrasting personalities, but they also share. They have a shared history. So,
Yeah.
how did you keep them from becoming polar opposites?
It was tricky because, you know, kids are at such different points in their lives at this age, you know, and I experienced that of some of my friends really were eager to grow up, and I was most definitely not, and my daughter was the same way. So it's always interesting when you have a character who still has this innocence, but everybody around her is pushing so hard to grow up. And so I wanted to contrast that, but at the same time, Jazz had to be likable, you know. And so I think bringing in the history of them and like having some flashbacks of why they were this close, and you know, she's going in her own direction, but at the same time, she's still somebody that was a huge part of Lo's life for years. And like I said, in flashbacks, we figure out why. And so being so eager to hang on to that friendship and rekindle it, even when Jazz is not the same person, and that's okay, you know, Jazz is growing up. But, you know, we see kind of Lo's struggle, but you know, we don't see Jazz's, we don't see what's going on in Jazz's life. So I'll tell you a little secret. There
Okay.
is another book coming, and it is about Jazz. So we do find out why Jazz is the way she is, and we find out who Jazz is and her side of the story. So I'm really excited. I haven't actually started writing it. I outlined it. I have to start writing it soon, but I'm really excited to be able to show both sides of this relationship.
Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that there will be another book about Jazz,
Yeah.
because that was one of my questions, like what's going on in her brain? Like what's happening to
Yeah.
her? Because she seems like she has a lot going on in her life
She does. She
um
definitely does.
that
Yeah.
she's struggling with. So
Yeah.
um I'm so happy to hear that. And one of the things, there was a line in the book on page 83, you wrote this wonderful line: I guess what I want to know when she leaves everything behind and becomes someone else, does she miss her old life? Or does she start over and forget everything from the past? I thought this was such a beautiful line and a clever line. And who's saying this line, and who is the line about?
I don't even remember. Um, okay. It's definitely Low, but is she talking about Jazz or is she talking about her butterfly? Because I mean, like that's definitely a theme there in you know, like kind of leaving an old self and becoming someone new and spreading your wings. And you think at first that that's really talking about the butterfly or talking about Jazz, but ultimately in this book, it's about Lo's transformation into a person she did never expected to be. And so I think, you know, one of the big themes is really just this transformation of becoming this different person. And what happens to the old person when you become a different person, you know? Like, so I honestly, I don't know who I wrote that line about. I specifically, I don't even want to look at it because I don't want to know, because it can apply to so many different aspects of the book. It can be Lo talking about her butterfly. It can be Lo talking about herself in a way, or it can be, she's probably talking about Jazz, to be honest. But yeah, you know, there's so many different layers of metamorphosis in this book, you know, of just her. She's looking at this butterfly and something that she used to do with Jazz, and taking it and putting it in a jar. I'm talking about stuff that somebody who hasn't read it wouldn't know, but I mean, you know, and having this crisis with the butterfly that, I don't know, it's, I'm kind of patting myself on the back because it's kind of clever when I think
I
about
thought
it.
it was it was very clever. It was
I'm
beautiful.
not sure I'm that clever, and you know, I think I just write stuff and then I'm kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I'm not sure I really give it the forethought that you think I do. I think I just kind of try to be true to myself and true to my characters, and sometimes a bit of cleverness peeks through that is unexpected and fun.
Well done, because I thought it spoke to all of the characters so
Mm.
beautifully. Um, and one of the things I was wondering about, and you addressed it a little bit, is at times Jazz is not that friendly to Lo.
No,
So why is Lo so invested in rebuilding this friendship?
I mean, Lo has always been in the shadow of Jazz for a long, long, long time. And she is sort of reliant on Jazz to define who she is as a person, because it's never been Lo Simpson, it's been Jazz and Lo. So when Jazz starts sort of moving off into a new friend group, she has no clue who she is because she's never had to figure it out. All of her identity, you know, the cosplay, the stuff that she likes to watch and read and do, it all intersects with things that Jazz was interested in too. But all of a sudden, Jazz is not interested in these things anymore. And Lo does not know who she is without her best friend. And so I think, you know, that really she's desperate to hang on to this friendship because this friendship defines her and has for a long time. She does not have a big friend group. She has people that she knows, but it's just Jazz, and she's been so reliant on following Jazz and taking Jazz's lead. And there have been things that she's wanted to do, but because Jazz wanted to do something else, that's what they did. So I think that is part of it, that she just, you know, this is a friendship that is so important to her. So, you know, it's built into who she is as a person. And I think she's afraid of losing this person and being alone, you know, walking into the lunchroom and knowing she can't sit with her best friend and looking around and thinking, well, where the hell do I sit? You know, like that's real. That's what happens. And so I think that even though Jazz isn't always nice, who is, you know, so it is a realistic look. Um, Jazz is not a bad person, and Jazz has been a great friend to her. So that's what she's thinking of. She's not thinking about this person that, you know, she doesn't really know at this moment.
Yeah, I thought that was a really wonderful part of this book because it's a universal thing that humans experience at any age, right?
Yep.
And as adults, we struggle
Yep.
with it. Like, who am I without this friend that I've had for years and years? And maybe it is time to let that friendship go, or maybe it will come back, you know, friendships.
Yeah.
So I thought that was such an honest and healthy
Mm.
portrayal of Lo's character, that she is examining this and exploring it. And I was interested also in the parental role. So normally, like a trope in young adult or middle grade novels is that the parents are either physically or emotionally absent, and Lo's
Mm.
parents aren't like that.
No.
What are Lo's parents like, and why did you write them that way?
Um, you know, I loved the idea of, look, I will say this, that I really hated reading stories when I was younger about how the parent or the adult steps in and saves the day. And I did not want that. But at the same time, um, I wanted there to be somebody that Lo could develop, could look at the things about her mom, especially that she admires. I mean, moms are embarrassing. I embarrass my children constantly, but but it's true, we do. But at the same time, when you read it, it's like, wow, she may be kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, what she does is really cool. Like she's a lawyer. She's a lawyer. I'm right? She's a lawyer. Okay. I, oh man. But one of the things she is dealing with in one of her cases is consent. So this gives an opportunity to then discuss it with Lo and also say, like, look, you can talk to me. These things should not be embarrassing. And the same thing when, the idea of bras or the idea of periods come up. This is a parent who is trying very hard. She's a parent. She's not trying to be her best friend, but at the same time, she wants Lo to know that there's nothing that she can't talk to her about. And as I'm a mom, and that is how I try to parent, like, hey, there are going to be conversations that make me wildly uncomfortable. There are going to be conversations that make my kids wildly uncomfortable, but I want them to feel like they can always talk to me. And it's a non-judgmental, safe zone. And that's the kind of people that I made Lo's parents, because not everybody has that in their life. And certainly that's something that I'm going to explore in the book about Jazz, because Jazz has a very different familial life. And we do meet other parents briefly, but in this case, these are really good parents. And they're not a cliche. They just want to be the best parents they can to their kids. They have their own life, but they're there for her and they are doing their best. And I think I really liked writing that. I did not want to write a cliche, and I didn't want to write, I don't know. I wanted a strong mom, I wanted a strong one. And the dad's fine too. He's a good guy, but he's a little more incidental than the mom, I guess, because I feel like the mom is just really kind of a stellar mom. And I thought that was fun to write.
Yeah, and it's rare that you often see a stellar mom. Like and I think of the things that I read as a child, the mom was kind of in the background cooking or something, right? So I found it just really a modern take on a mom and just really good modeling.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, in terms of over the last few years in society, it seems like parenting is changing in the modeling for parenting.
Yeah.
So I thought when I said earlier, this is a book that's firmly planted in 2024. Part of it was the portrayal of the parents.
Mhm.
But there's
And I think it was important too for Lo's character arc, because I feel like if she did not have that example of a mom and that relationship, I don't think she would have had the same character arc that she had. And, like her mom is very happy and proud to have her daughter take the lead. Like she could have stormed into the school and made a big thing, but she doesn't do that. She sits back and says, you got this. I'm here with you, but you've got it, like. And I think that was important to have Lo become the person that she is at the end of the book. I don't think it would have happened if I had written the mom differently.
Yeah, I agree. She's a great character, and you have a number of fantastic characters. And so I'm wondering, how did you come up, like, what was the process like for developing your characters, and who's your favorite?
Oh, Lo's definitely my favorite, because Lo just reminds me so much of myself and reminds me very much of my kid. And I would literally, and this sounds so stupid, but I would literally write chapters and I would be giggling as I wrote like some of the dialogue, because I just thought this is so fun. I was excited to open my laptop and work on this book because it was just fun. I could have these characters in really strange situations or having conversations. And I really enjoyed it. And so Lo's definitely my favorite. But yeah, Lo's new friend group is really interesting. And I think, you know, kind of her male counterpart, I don't know what I would call him, but I really wanted to have well-developed characters and there to be layers to them, because she's got an idea of what kids are like. That is not at all accurate, like unless you get to you're judging them solely based on, nothing.
Dig
Yeah.
character, I was like, oh, he's no good. He's no
Mhm.
good at the beginning. And then I was like,
Yeah.
well, I won't give it away, but
Yeah. I know, that's why I'm trying to very carefully, but she runs across a lot of characters, and it's just interesting to me that she really does do that thing that we all do of judging people based solely on maybe the way they look or the way they present themselves or even what they've heard about them. And like Bobby, for instance, he's never going to change. That kid's a jerk, but he remains a jerk. He was a jerk in kindergarten. He remains a jerk. But there are some characters, like she runs across the kid she thinks is a cool kid in the hall, who she legit wants to be this really cool kid, but she finds out that, okay, I'm going to risk it all. I'm going to talk to her because I need something. Again, I'm trying really hard not to give anything away, but this kid's just like, yeah, no problem. Like she finds out that when she actually talks to people, that people are actually okay. And I think because she was so reliant on Jazz for so long, that she really had this skewed idea that it was scary to talk to other people, or other people maybe wouldn't like her, especially because Jazz is sort of not liking who she is at this time. So putting herself out there when she maybe feels like, okay, the it girls are being really shady and this kid is super popular, and I don't know, it's kind of interesting to me to see how much Lowe has changed. And like I said, I wanted there to be layers. Now when I wrote her new friend group, I had to go back and add them in more because I really skimmed them a little bit. And I had a great editor who just said, where are the friends? You introduced us to these characters. Can we see them more? So I thought, oh, wow, I did them a real disservice. So I did get to go back and really sit with the characters and think about them and really think about who they are and how they could contribute to the story instead of just having them in the background. Oh, I needed a friend group. Here they are. I got to have them actually interact more and develop more of character personalities of their own and not just be, the secondary characters to Lowe. So I'm glad that I got that note because it would not have been as good a book if I just glossed over these other characters just to have other characters. So
yeah, I thought you have a huge, well-developed, or not huge, but a large developed cast of characters, and you have all these spin-offs. So I'm glad to hear that the book about Jazz is in the works. What
yeah.
else do you have in the works in the next year or 2 years that you're working on?
Oh man, I mean, there's always a bunch of stuff, but one thing that I am super proud of, and it's the book I wrote after, I think after Low, and it'll be out next year. I've got a picture book coming out, and Matt James is the illustrator. I'm super excited, and it's called well, right now, who knows what it'll end up being called, but they haven't changed it yet. But it's called The One About the Blackbird, and that's actually what this tattoo represents because. Um, Low Simpson was an important book for me to read, to write, because I got to really take some risks and write about things that I was passionate about, because I've done a lot of the same kinds of themes for a long time. And I really wanted to try something different and kind of, it's hard to take a risk when you're having some success writing a certain thing. It's really hard to try something new. And I was so happy with the way Low turned out. Through the grace of skilled editors. But I also wrote a picture book and I thought about, okay, my picture books have all been pretty dark. And again, I guess there's an underlying darkness to this, but I got to incorporate music, and I have guitars and a set of drums back here. I love music. I have a record player over there. I love music. I'm passionate about it. And I still wanted to write about a kid's relationship with their grandparent because that's something that I write a lot about. But I wanted it to be a completely different story that somehow incorporated my love of music, because I got to incorporate my love of Doctor Who and cosplay. So what else could I do? And this picture book talks about a kid who grows up in a home surrounded by music. His grandfather plays records and plays the guitar. And one day this kid says, you know, I want to learn how to play the guitar. And he picks it up, and his grandfather's trying to show him how to play a chord. Anybody who plays guitar knows it's really hard when you're learning. Your fingers do not want to go in those shapes. It hurts.
It hurts.
So it really hurts. And he tries to do it. And he just kind of says, oh, I can't do it. I can't do this. It's too hard. And his grandfather says, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And he keeps practicing. And I loved that message. And he keeps practicing. And he tells his grandfather, you know, in secret, I want to do this. I want to learn. I want to play music. And his grandfather teaches him, and he grows up. And normally in picture books, the kid doesn't grow up, but I needed a full circle here. So the kid grows up, and, you know, as he gets bigger, the guitar gets smaller because initially it's really big in his lap. And he has to deal with a grandfather who is dealing with Alzheimer's. And there isn't a lot written about that. You know, obviously there can't be a happy ending. I've had Alzheimer's in my own family, and I know what that's like. So I mean, I'm telling the whole plot of the book at this point, but the whole plot of the story, basically, he becomes a musician, and he goes to visit his grandfather, and he gets to have the same moment replayed of his grandfather doesn't remember how to play guitar anymore. And he, you know, so he just says it's too hard. And the little boy says, well, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And he plays him his grandfather's favorite song, which is the one about the blackbird. And so throughout the story, we talk about the one about the blackbird, which is why I have a blackbird on a guitar hole. And obviously it's a Beatles song, for if anybody didn't get that reference, but I never actually say that. It's just the one about the blackbird. So I'm super proud of it. It is probably the best picture book I've ever written, I think. Matt James, I've already seen rough work, and it's beautiful. It's coming out next year with Tundra, and I'm so proud of it. I'm so thrilled, and I cannot wait. You know, to anybody, please look forward to it. It's a book that these two books, Low Simpson and the one about the blackbird, are literally the books of my heart, you know. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, you'll have to promise to come back and do an interview and show us the beautiful book that's coming out too, because I've so enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this interview. And
thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you to the viewers for watching. And don't forget to pick up a copy of Low Simpson Starts a Revolution at your local bookstore, or order it at your local library. And if you enjoyed this episode of The Artisanal Writer, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.